Greetings, my friends. Welcome to another Rebel Moon podcast, hacking the future so you can gain the edge. Today is Sunday, the 11th of July, and I think most of the Northern Hemisphere by now also knows that today is the final clash for the Euro 2020 between England and Italy. But my friends, this is much more than a football match competition. And even I will be keeping a beady eye on events, even though I'm not into football. You see, guys, most of the world by now has seen how the anti-British Brexit haters have sustained an extremely vicious 5-year-long dirty tricks campaign against Britain. And England in particular, because attacks have also come from wee Jimmy Cranky, Nicola Sturgeon there up in Scotland, from my former stomping grounds, which as you know is now run by a mentally deranged cabal posing as the SNP and of course a mouthpiece for the EU Mafia, which Nicola Sturgeon is. Hence why she is leaving Scotland to buy a place in Portugal when she gets out of politics, probably off all the money that she's been paid by the EU for being a pain in the arse to the British government in general. Now, it's really sad because Scotland is still part of the British Isles mainland, as is in Wales, and the former United Kingdom, which, as you know, has become quite fragmented over the years, thanks to all these sustained attacks from the treacherous media and political shills in London, Europe, and of course beyond. But even though these young lions play in English colours, they're also playing to win for the Scots and the Welsh and Northern Ireland too. And trust me, win or lose, it will hopefully help reunite these ancient kingdoms to heal the deep scars of Brexit once and for all. And these scars, as you know, are being created by lies of the media and lies of politicians. And you know why, my friends? Well, I'll tell you, shall I? Because united we stand, divided we fall. And of course, while we're passing through these strange and dangerous times, we either unite or we fall. It's as simple as that, guys. Now, the same covert attack on our society is happening over the pond in America, with the fake woke culture and now the critical race theory that's being taught in schools over there. And you know what that does? It's to brainwash a new generation of kids to hate each other and indeed themselves at the end of the day. It's sneaking into British schools, but we'll cover that another time. Like I said, there's a big thing to this football match tonight. I'm going to try and explain it to you. Now, I'm going to go down, like I said, that particular colonisation agenda rabbit hole some other time. And it'll be pretty soon because, like I said, it has been creeping into our country. It's washing up on our shores and it needs to be stamped out along with the woke lunatics posing as teachers these days in our schools and our universities. And if you want to know where the breeding ground for the likes of Antifa and BNL et al. Come from, well, you know, wonder where your kids get this negative attitude of self-entitlement from? Look no further than your schools and universities. Yes, folks, the very establishments of learning funded by you, the taxpayer, and hence why parents have every right to have a say in what their kids are being taught at school. And snowflake wokeness isn't one of them. You'll have to excuse my dinger keep going off because I'm winding people up that I'm supporting Italy tonight. That's my sister, she's going spur. So let me turn this damn thing off. Anyway, as we know, that's only the tip of the iceberg. And when it comes to brainwashing and conditioning the children of today, but before anything can change, the blinkered masses have to be shown the evidence in real time. So let's take a brief journey for a peek behind the curtain, because all this 1.5 years of rubbish is soon coming to an end. Well, actually, it's 5 years for the British. Now, the best place to start for something that you can tell naysayers and what they can see with their own eyes is the mainstream media. Because a great deal of it is owned by the same treacherous cabals who want to dominate the way we live and the world the way the world operates, and that includes reducing the world population by over 2/3 so it can be managed more easier by the few elites and the ruling class cronies. Oh, and by the way, guys, anyone who still thinks that is a load of old baloney conspiracy theory needs to wake up instead of dissing every little thing that scares them. Yeah, like a flu virus, for crying out loud. Oh, it's the hay fever now, sorry. Killer hay fever. Now, I simply can't understand why any people at all are in denial of who they are being manipulated by, or indeed, when it's all coming from them, not us. These are not conspiracies made up by people. These are things that have been told by their own people, their own entities in governments, and especially the likes of non-government organisations, what they call NGOs, that they control as well, like the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum, which in itself is a sight to behold. Now, let me tell you something about these dark-souled entities, which may seem a little strange to the less knowledgeable people amongst you, but it's true anyway. They feed off negative energy like humans thrive on sunshine. Hence why you really rarely get any uplifting news from the mainstream media. It's all dim and grim all the time. And it's something that anyone can see every single day of their life. Bad news, depressing news, a plain simple gobbledygook that nobody is interested in. And hence why it's advised to switch off the mainstream media in order to save your sanity. And I kid you not about that. So I've been watching this propaganda in real time being pushed out in what passes for the British media these days, and indeed the dregs of society who collaborate with it, as the so-called news and TV presenters, which, by the way, are scum. Each and every one of them. And indeed, any of them are invited to try and silence me and my ilk, because we, like anyone else who can see what's going on, have simply had enough of them. Now, the glass is so full of this nonsense bullshit, it's overflowing into la land, where it can't communicate with a sane and healthy mind any longer. So today, I'd like to see a few more million people wake up and suss out this sneaky media underhand attempt to dampen the British spirit and ruin the atmosphere of the day, which, by the way, they're already trying to do. They're trying to put a damper on it, And this atmosphere, what they're trying to dampen is a wave of excitement and happiness and tension, which the battered and downtrodden masses haven't experienced for a year and a half now. They've not had the excitement and the ups and downs of games, win or lose, it doesn't matter, and being together and being united. The powers that be cannot stand that. And like I said, these enemies of human society can't bear this kind of electric atmosphere. The same you feel at concerts and big matches and big events. They can't. They don't like it. They don't like people being happy. Some of them like to be there to watch, just so they can say they've been there. But that's only in the stadium. What we're talking about here is a national thing, possibly international as well. But they can't bear it. And hence why they have to put a damper on everything with these sneaky subliminal comments. I've been tuning into a little bit of these things on the internet, these pundits, the media pundits, and honestly, I don't know how they're getting away with it. But then again, let's see them walk amongst fans and say the same thing and see what happens to them then. And anyone who spots the sneakiness will see them for what they really are, and indeed whose side they're on. And trust me on this one, I speak only for the British TV media, but most of the media wars you see and hate today will not be around in less than 1 year's time. I can promise you that. And that's good news if you read between the lines on the bigger scale of things. And that goes for you guys over in America who have the biggest media manipulation machine in the world. But nevertheless, I and my compadres around the world will be putting the heebie-jeebies on them live in real time, some of these pundits. So don't be surprised if they start getting tongue-tied and blurting out things that they wish they'd not have said later, right? Or they're not supposed to. So people can see them for the scumbags they really are. Now then, the title says everything, doesn't it? England versus Italy versus the EU Mafia. Okay, now then, it's getting a little bit crazy, but like I said, the title says everything. You see, this event has far transcended into something else, and more people are beginning to see it the same way. It's gone beyond football, because they've not seen this kind of unification for a long time. Well, I say we've all been under martial law, haven't we? Kind of. So this isn't simply about winning a trophy. Maybe to football fans it is. But to other people, it's about showing the world what can be achieved in the face of great adversity after taking a beating for over 5 years now. 5 years, guys, let's not forget. Now, they thought it was all over, but it isn't over by a long shot. And it isn't about beating Italy 3-2 or whatever. It's about kicking the EU Mafia squarely in the teeth and saying, OK, now the gloves are off, now we want to fight. We are sick of taking punches, it's our time to start punching back. And Germany and France, as most people know in Britain, have done everything in their power to kick the English soccer team out of the Euro 2020 competition. You know what I mean? Keep politics out of all sport. Even though I'm not into most sports, I know a lot of people love it and enjoy it. It's their freedom, it's their escape. And politicians, they've got their fingers in too many pies these days. They have to be reined in. They will be reined in, and they have to be reined in. Trust me on that one as well. You see, they've pulled every dirty trick and every threat to expel them because of Brexit. But also, I think they're bloody scared of the team as well. I mean, after all, this is the Euro competition. We're not in the European Union anymore. Now, I reckon even many foreigners, including some Europeans, have been a little bit bemused at the constant attacks of anything British. And now we have all seen that there is nothing to be scared of, especially when it comes to these dregs of humanity in Brussels. Nothing to fear. It's a paper tiger, like I've always said. And not even the working people's sport of football and any other kind of entertainment, right, which they are intent and hell-bent on destroying, be it the Olympics or your summer holidays abroad, which have we seen they've done a pretty good job of so far, just like they're trying to put the dampers on this competition tonight. But today, my friends, will be some kind of sign of a turning point for humanity in general. Now, I've never been into football like most people I've known, but as mentioned, I do follow a bit of the World Cup when it comes around every 4 years, which suits me fine, it's long enough. But I know it's a passion for millions of people every weekend around the world, no matter which team they support on a national or international level. And big events create big atmosphere, don't they? Be it a music festival, rock concert or otherwise. And all those humans pushing out positive energy creates a mass effect, which I'm going to talk about in another podcast very soon as we get closer to it. This mass effect scares the fat controllers because it unites the masses instead of dividing them, which has been the case since the mystery virus scam Ponzi scheme started. Now, win or lose, there's going to be a massive step backwards for the powers that be, or powers soon not to be, I should say, and the treacherous little acolytes. And it will also confirm what we've been saying about using the flu seasons as an excuse to lock up people and control their lives. In this case, they're going to try and piggyback on the hay fever season, which is pretty high in parts of the UK recently, and as was leaked in that document, which confirmed what we've been saying. Flu seasons haven't disappeared. The mystery virus is the flu season and the hay fever seasons. But enough of that. The fact the media has already started mourning about the final at Wembley Arena. See what I mean? It's a one-trick pony. Virus, spreading, blah-de-blah-de-blah. One-trick pony. One-trick ponies are dead easy to beat. You know, they're like one-hit wonders. That's it. Short, have the moments of glory, bang, you never hear from again. But they're already mourning on TV. You know, it's going to be the perfect storm. See how they're building it all up already? Like I said they would weeks and weeks ago. It's going to be the perfect storm to spread the Ponzi scam with 60,000 diseased peasants spreading the mystery virus and, of course, the perfect excuse to make up new, more dangerous killer variants. Is this going to be the Delta Wembley variant? We don't know. But yes, alrighty then, because people ain't going to swallow it this time, trust me. And riddle me this. Why do over, if this is so dangerous and they're already building up this fear-mongering, why do over 2,500 EU VIPs want to go to the Wembley final, but they want to be exempt from the same restrictions that everybody else has to abide by? No quarantine, no this, no that. And after all, these so-called new gods of the world are the biggest cowards on the face of the planet, and that's something I've proved many times over the decades in real time, so don't have any illusions about that. My longliners know what the score is. And what is the definition of a coward, really? Well, it's merely someone who has a heightened and unnatural instinct for self-survival. They don't care about anybody else. They will never risk anything to save someone else. They will keep way out of it and leave it to other people. They're like little leeches. And they must survive at all costs. Whether it's a scandal or a crime or corruption that they get suspected of. And then what they do then, as we've seen, they'll throw anyone under a bus to save their own miserable skins. And yes, even the granny or child if they have to, because they have a big yellow streak running right down their backbone, where other people have a streak of courage running down their backbone. And furthermore, you can bet your soon-to-crash euro dollar that they will be enjoying another freeloading shindig, right, with a mask, not a mask in sight like they did at G7, because they know there is no threat. It's hay fever season, for crying out loud. And have you noticed they're backing off that now and talking about booster jabs in August, because they know nobody's going to listen to them for a while, especially after this match, as we're delving into. Now, this time, like I said, the media is not going to be able to make up excuses for them about being at the seaside, the G7. Oh, well, they were at the seaside with fresh air blowing in. Funny that. Normal people go to the seaside, fresh sea air blowing in and blowing away any germs or what have you. It doesn't apply to them. It blows all the germs away. And that didn't wash. Seeing as Germany's Herr Merkel was said to have contracted it. In actual fact, she brought it over. Remember, we talked about the hotel that she stayed at, and the German contingent had to be deep cleaned after they left because some of the people came in contact with it. But not this time, my friends. There ain't no fresh sea breeze in a stadium of 60,000 people chanting and cheering for every goal scored by England, which could be as many as 3. And oh my God, wait till they start singing, because the unelected pseudoscientists who generate this utter bunkum claim singing can spread it further and faster. Please, it's just an insult to the average intelligence. And allow me to give you another heads up, right? You'll like this. The so-called National Health Service app, NHS app for short, which is stupidly telling people to isolate, is also in its endgame right now. All £34 billion worth of the shit. £34 billion for an app, right? Why? Well, because that's it. It's about an autocratic society. It doesn't take £34 billion to make an app. Jesus Christ. I wonder if the naysayers are laughing now that the government has admitted it has to be tweaked to be less sensitive. This is how accurate it is, guys. It's telling people to stay off work. It's ruling their lives. I don't know what's wrong with these people. I've never had this app. I won't entertain it and they won't force it on my phone. And even if they did, I'd just have a bad habit of leaving my phone every time I went out. End of story. Which I do anyway. If I'm just going local, I never take my phone with me. So, yeah, it's going to be tweaked to less sensitive. And they're now exposing the scam themselves. So let's hope more people spot the blatantly obvious. Like, for instance, making the rules up as they go along. Yes, folks, listen to this, you guys. Over here, some of the NHS staff don't have to self-isolate even if they're pinged by the app. What do they mean, some? Is this artificial intelligence? How does it know? Or is it once again based on law land wisdom, meaning when it's convenient to them, which is more likely or more realistic? You see, they say it's to make sure the NHS can cope with staff shortages that they themselves have created because it's about destroying the NHS to privatise it. And saving it is the very last thing they want to do. Otherwise, they don't get rewarded with £1 million a year jobs once they've been kicked out of politics for the treachery. That's where they go. They get big jobs, directors' jobs. They are on the gravy train for life once they've done this dirty work. But as we know, it's nothing to do with the app pinging nurses at all, or anyone else for that matter. You see, it's other businesses as well. People go, I've got pinged, I can't come into work tomorrow. It's ruining businesses. It's a destructive thing. It should be banned. People should use the power and delete the fucking thing off the phone. End of story. And if the government want to sue me for that, come on ahead. I really don't care. Nobody cares about you at this point. Nobody's scared about you anymore. And particularly me, because I know what's coming to them. And I'm doing it here in public. That's how sure I am. Now, first to claim that all this NHS staff have been double jabbed, fair enough. But many more have quit because of the mandatory jab ruling for NHS staff. We covered this months and months ago, which, by the way, is totally illegal. Mandatory jabs, they cannot do it in Britain. It is totally illegal unless they're sneaking things through the back door, which again makes them illegal. It's like this getting your information off doctors and it's an opt-out. No, it should be an opt-in, not opt-out, because most people don't even know that the doctors are selling information. Or they will pay as well. They'll get struck off, don't worry. The time is coming. Everybody has to be shown. Everybody has to be shown, and then they will agree that the punishment must fit the crime. No, this let off and resigning and getting away with it. They are all answerable. Even if they've resigned or not, they'll all be by. All those who created it over the past 5 years is coming to them. This is going to be like the new Nuremberg trials. That's how I see it. And you can blame people because, we've seen things that we can only suspect about some of the dire negative health consequences that we keep hearing about around the world. So, if somebody is not sure whether to take a vaccine, then they have every right to refuse it until they know more. And a lot of them have done that. They've not said, I don't want it, period. They've said, no, I don't want it yet. And while these negative things keep coming out about people and the bad side effects, that's what they're waiting for. So they have every right to do that. But alas and alike, the problem is some of these medical staff have been forced into signing non-disclosure contracts. That's similar to the Official Secrets Act in order to scare them into silence. Except for the brave few who later get suspended for leaking the truth, as we've seen. Or they get demonised by the press and the media. You see, my friends, what this bent media won't tell you is another reason the National Health Service app has to be tweaked. You know why? This is the truth. Because millions of people have already dumped it. They're fed up of it spoiling their life and micromanaging them. And especially since this Euro competition began, and even more so now that the final is approaching. There's no football fanatic or supporter is going to risk having the day ruined by a piece of shit pinging them and ordering them to self-isolate. Because they bumped into someone who's also been pinged, who also might not have anything wrong with them anyway. I mean, I can't believe this nonsense has got this far, this madness. I can't understand why people are letting their lives get ruled by a frigging app. Honestly. But it has done, and now the reign of fear has climaxed at last. And the fools in suits are panicking, because people who have been leaving the phones at home or dumping the app, even like I said, just go shopping or go into a pub to watch the final, which basically renders the app inaccurate and therefore useless to dictate to people about when they can go out or not. How does it know when you're leaving your phone? How does it know where you're going? It's just going to assume that you've bumped into someone, even if you go for a walk in the countryside by yourself. Now, methinks, my friends, that the kings of Silicon Valley and the lunatics in the NGOs like the WEF, the climate change freaks, haven't thought things out properly. And there's always a price to be paid for hubris and ignorance and arrogance, always. In a nutshell, those figures of spiralling cases being spewed out every minute of the day are totally inaccurate and grossly exaggerated. And I hope people have noticed what I said to watch for. And that being that every time the agenda runs into trouble or a scandal's are leaked about one of their little acolytes in politics, the number of cases coincidentally jumps up the day after. Surely people have noticed that by now. Convenient coincidence, call it. And the same old fear-mongering tactic to hint that restrictions may have to increase if you don't behave yourself and stop listening to the truth. Yeah? You get that? Behave yourself, stop listening to the truth. Do not listen to people like me who like to tell the truth, who like to show people what's hidden between the lines. So, my friends, it's time to wrap up this little chinwag about how others are seeing this final showdown, which, like I said, transcends football or soccer or simple footy, as we call it here. So far, we've had mixed feelings about Brexit due to media lies and political misinformation that's obviously being made up as it goes along. But as promised, it's starting to come to a head. The truth will always be revealed in the end. That is the way life has worked for thousands and thousands of years. And while these EU Nazis in the little empire have thrown everything at Great Britain, in a futile and insane attempt to bring us back into the EU gulag, we've been doing deals behind its back like nobody's business. And each time they've done that, we've seen the EU lowlife throwing a hissy fit and pulling out their hair. And don't forget Boris as a figurehead, Boris Johnson, the Fifel, whatever he's called. He gets the credit, of course, but really the credit belongs to the team behind the scenes, like Liz Truss, who's been pulling off these deals, and Lord Frost, who has been negotiating the Brexit deals. And Lord Frost, if you remember, that's who von der Leyen and her cowards want to replace. You know why? Because he's too tough a negotiator. You know, they had Michael Gove in there, and he was a soft ass like Theresa May. She was another one. She was another shill. And they you know, were in this position now because of them. So she was kicked out from Prime Ministership. He was removed from that. Lord Frost was putting it in. But he's too tough a negotiator. He won't say yes to everything, so they don't like him, and they want him to replace. I'm not joking. They hate a fair fight in Europe, you know. You see, this is the problem. Some decent Europeans, and it's like in any country, the decent people, it's just governments that give us a bad name. And Europe now is being seen as, well, the EU, isn't it? Every nation is EU because it's looking like they're backing it. Therefore, they are in a EU Nazi regime and they like it. But they hate a fair fight over there. It scares them because they know they'll lose. Hence why Herr Merkel and Macron, de Bonaparte, wanted England out of the competition. If you remember that. And remember something else. They even threatened to move the final to Turkey. And that's when Spain jumped on the bandwagon to try and steal it. Shame on you. Shame on you. And then they're wondering, that's twice they betrayed us with the back in France with the fish, and now this, and now they're begging for Brits to go back. And no doubt some will go, but they will never have the numbers ever again like they used to. It's had its day, and a lot of them will return after this time around anyway. But isn't it ironic how Italy knocked out Spain to save us the job of repaying the treachery for siding with French and this illegal fishing war? I mean, is it irony or karma? You choose your own poison, my friends. Let's play football and leave the drama to the Italians tonight. Because when the going gets tough, they will probably refer to what they usually do, trying to poach penalties and free kicks with their over-dramatic tendencies, which will only result in yellow cards and sending offs. Because the tide is changing and they know it. You know the score. Well, they did it with Spain as well. Well, you know, one thing's to get tough, they start playing a bit dirty, the Italians. Sorry if you support Italy, but if you can't face the fact, it's the truth. If a British guy fouls another thing, the British say, no, he did foul it, end of story. He should have been sent off, and he was sent off. Justice. But with the Italians, they all do it all the time. They get a tap on the ankle, down they go, rolling about in sheer fake agony. You're not even bloody touched him. You know, it makes you wonder what would happen if somebody slapped him in the face. You know, would they die just by a slap? You probably would. It's sheer fake agony just for the referee's attention and benefit. And some of them, I'm kidding, some of them roll over so many times, you'd think they've been hit by a fecking speeding truck or something. They roll halfway across the pitch. You know, I'd love to run on the pitch in evening dress, you know, with a bow tie and all that, and a diamond in my tooth. One of them that when you smile with a cheesy smile, it twinkles into a starburst for the cameras. When I present the best actors with a football Oscars they get while they're still rolling around on the ground. I'd love to do that. Because after that, once they get their way or the referee says, no, play on, it's miraculous recovery. They stand up and off they go like nothing happened. I've never seen that. It's a bloody miracle. You know, it's another thing why I've never taken to football, guys. You know, faking bad tackles just for penalties and grabbing each other. Have you seen that? That is not sport, pulling and grabbing each other. You know, that used to be banned when I was a kid. You couldn't do that. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's cheating, isn't it? End of story. There's that's what puts me off. That and the humping and spooning each other is another one. Because it's not my bag, baby. It's just not my bag. But finally, guys, afore I go, we Jim a cranky sturgeon up there in Scotland, like our national British haters, they'll be rooting for Italy. Just a heads up, for non-Brits, hardcore Scottish football fans always support any team who plays against the English once they've been knocked out of big competitions like the World Cup. And no kidding, some of them even splash out on the football shirts to cheer the opposite team on, you know, just to make sure to beat the English bastards. Anyway, from what I'm gathering, there's been no remorse for gazumping the Germans after all they've done to us. We do commiserate with Denmark because they're our friends. And it seems that the Brits, it's just that the Brits are on some kind of mission to remind the naysayers what Britain is made of once it awakens, which I've been saying for a long time. You keep poking the lion, it's going to have your arm off sooner or later because you're going to get too cocky. And in this case, in a metaphorical sense, it's already proved its mettle. The spineless EU Mafia has thrown its best at this tiny island race. Its best teams, its best players, we're talking about top multi-millionaire professional footballers, they've thrown everything. And this little young British team has gone right through to the final. But yes, they've thrown everything, thrown its best at this tiny island race. The whole damn European continent needs to see that the unelected EU Nazi regime can, and indeed will be beaten to a pulp and exposed for the paper tiger that it is. You see, it doesn't really matter which way you look at it. But something bigger in life is at play here, which I've been on about for quite some time now. We're getting closer to it. The end of this darkness. I'm not talking about a few years. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of years of darkness. Now the media, for instance, and I want you to notice this, they keep rubbing it in about England not winning a major competition for 55 years. Can you see what I mean? They're trying to pour water on over the event. They're still fear-mongering. They can't help it. They're doing it with football now. They're supposed to be saying good things about England. You know, and after this, I've got a feeling a lot of them are not going to be in the jobs. Right? But, you know, they didn't mention things like, what about when they beat Germany 5-1 in the qualifying stages of the 2002 World Cup? That was at the Olympus Stadium in Munich as well. You know, the Brits were playing away in Munich on German home ground, and they stuffed the Germans 5-1. Oh, nothing about that, is there? Oh, no, it's 55 years, you haven't won anything. You know, what a load of bollocks. Please, people, watch this British media, and then you know who the shills are. And they do it in a, you know, like they're laughing and joking, but they mean it. Millions more Brits will come to realise the treachery of the British media before all this is over. Mark my words, or mark them well. Because it's full of shills who want England to get crushed in the final. They want Britain to get beat at everything until there's nothing left of us. Now, like I said, most of these people in the media, entities, shitheads, feckheads, whatever you want to call them, they're all scum. They're all scum. You know, they don't wish them well, and most of those, they do it because they're sneaky little cockroaches. They don't mean anything sincerely, because that's what cowardly scumbags do in hope that they don't get caught out and turn the public against them, which a lot of them are in for a shot when this is all over. Trust me on that one as well. See, I'm doing a lot of trust me's today, and because I've seen a lot of that already. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I hope other people are also cottoning on to the fakery by these socialist commie lowlifes that have infiltrated our society. And finally, I said any intentions of using the final to create another lockdown simply won't work now. Especially now that people have tasted the freedom and indeed are dumping the NHS tracking app that is imposing on people's lives. Because the thing is, if you're out, you get pinged and then you go out, you can get done. Is it $2,000 or $10,000 or something stupid? Honestly, this is worse. This is worse than the bloody Stasi in Germany. You know, the shills in government are getting nervous. I've told you that for a while. I can feel it. I can smell it. And I mentioned they thrive on creating misery and stress and fear. And now they're losing that power as a positive wave of energy sweeps across the country and across Europe and hopefully the world. So as I've often hinted lately, Boris can now see the writing on the wall. He knows the game's up. He'll do what they all do, he'll throw his mates under the bus at the end of the day. But he's realising the dire consequences that were spoke of in that leaked report of Neil Ferguson's. He's realised the consequences for supporting these unelected entities who are posing as scientists, who've created a new kind of martial law for the past 16 months. And from what we've seen of Boris, if he wants to survive as PM, he will have to switch his loyalties pretty fast by not swaying from his promises of freedom, which he has done every single time so far. Now remember, he's broke every single promise as I predicted he would. But this time I said he cannot break this one. This is really, really the final one. He's going to try, well, they have been trying, you've seen it in the media, hinting, you know, all these people and the Wembley, and Neil Ferguson's document again said they're going to piggyback on the hay fever season and blame it on Wembley, pretend that's the new Delta variant, which doesn't fecking exist. Sue me for that one, you bastards. Come on, I dare you. You know, and I'm going to predict another thing while I'm at it, because I'm on for him today, all right? You see, don't forget, he's brought every freedom. Every single time. He will not break this one because he daren't. He's going to have to decide, choose a side, which side he's on. So anyhow, like I said, I'm going to predict one more thing for you. By the time this weekend is over, my friends, many anti-British people around the world who've fallen for the negative media about us will start to see us in a different light. And that light is going to light the way to freedom. This latest attempt to establish an already failed New World Order, or global reset as they've reinvented it. The sheer energy of this event is scaring the holy bejesus out the so-called architects, elite architects, who are having the name put to the test. And they're not doing well in my eyes, not when it comes to being elite. I've got more eliteness in my big toe than they have in the body. It blows the accusations that the Brits are racist right out the water, and it's going to show who the real racists are. Those who are trying to create it. One look at the team and the fans says it all. Britain has been a multiracial society since even I landed on this hell of earth. And let's face it, there was hardly a coloured face to be seen in some of these teams whose countries accuse everybody else of being a racist. That is what you call hypocrisy. That is what they want to build a world on. Lies and hypocrisy. And as I said many moons ago, my friends, the mystery virus agenda was designated to enslave people and micromanage them via high-tech autocracy. And as the stupid tracking does, that's what it is. It's an autocratic society. They want to run everything on artificial intelligence. And that's what it's all about, tracking your movements, which is bugger all to do with your health. It's about tracking you and keeping you locked up. It's nothing to do with health. They have a bloody cheat calling it the National Health Service app. There's nothing healthy about the service that they're providing, telling people to stay in, just because they get a ping on a phone that from somebody else, some stranger that they've, come into contact with. I'm in contact with, what is that, 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, who knows? It's infringing on freedoms via the back door, and it's trying to split society into two, between the vaccinated and those like me who prefer to let my immune system deal with any flu virus or any other infections, etc., that come my way, like it always has done since I was a child. And that being the immune system that I was born with and given to me by Mother Nature, just like you was given your immune system, given to you by Mother Nature. And I, and most of us, have lived through many more vicious viruses than this Mickey Mouse one that hardly kills anyone, by the way, and that's by their own admission. High infection rates, but high survival rates as well. Why? Because it's flu. I don't know. In a nutshell, anyway, as I mentioned last time, the treacherous politicians that are embedded in the British government and Brexit Remainers are about to get their bottoms kicked. And they're about to experience fear for a change, because when they feel this energy tonight, something's going to happen to them and they're not going to like it. It will put the bloody heebie-jeebies up them, I'll tell you. And they can pump all the fear-mongering up all they want, because it's going to backfire on them. So the more they pump it up, I hope they do, the more the better, because the bigger the kickback is, the backdraft when it comes. You see, guys, they've let the genie of freedom out the bottle. And good luck to them trying to get back in, because it's simply not doable. It might have been at other times, but not now. The way nature's lined all this up to this big final. It's something about it that's even got me interested, who's not even a football fan. But it's not doable. This scaremongering this time around, brothers and sisters, it is not going to work. So meanwhile, enjoy the positive energy across the world, the excitement, the tension, the sadness and everything else. Enjoy it this evening, because no matter who wins or loses, although it will be England, because something much bigger in nature is taking place that's going to benefit humankind instead of trying to destroy and enslave it. This is the beginning. The beginning actually started some time ago, but the people don't know yet. Like I said, nature will give them sign, and nature will do something. There's a wave coming, a wave of energy, and over this final and what happens after that, you know. And every time an English goal is scored, right, I'm going to get great pleasure in the knowledge that the likes of wee Jimmy Cranky Sturgeon up in Scotland pulling a straw hair out and shouting, "English bastards!" while she's frothing at the mouth like a rabid, freedom-hating animal that she is. Maybe that's because she can see a retirement dream house in Portugal fading away. Funny that, screaming about freedom, getting away from England, and then she's going to feck off to Portugal and live there. You know, she's no intentions of living in Scotland. You know, it's honestly, it's all coming out. That's great. So meanwhile, my friends, you enjoy the match tonight, especially if you like football. It's going to be absolutely brilliant for you. For me, I'm going to be watching the atmosphere, feeding on the atmosphere, because I know something is coming out of this. Okay, my friends, I will see you on the wind.